Before we start today's video, I wanted to quickly let you all know about the Kink Bundle. It is back again for a second year this year, and this time we have over 30 different classes, ebooks, and more combined together into one amazing deal. This includes material provided by some of the best educators in the business like Midori, Sunny Megatron, and Justine Cross. There is something in this bundle for everyone. There's classes on building protocol, power exchange, DDLG, and so much more. So please check it out. I know last year you all loved it, and I don't want you to miss out this year. And this year, I'm also providing my class on Primal Play I made for this bundle. I am so proud of it. I know all of you are going to love it. It's the most in-demand thing that I haven't yet talked about, so don't miss out. This is only available until midnight on August 22nd, so go ahead, check it out, link in the description. Hello, everyone. My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we are going to be talking more about pet play and a very particular form of pet play that is not widely understood, and it should be an interesting conversation. So lately I have been talking more about pet play again, and I've been loving it. You all have been loving it. It's really felt like a return to form for my channel because a lot of my very early content was very pet play centric, and I am really enjoying getting to go back into all of that. And naturally, because I have been covering this more, I've been getting a lot of questions that I used to get quite a lot. And they tend to be along the lines of like, if I want to do pet play, can I be a squirrel? Can I be a hamster? Can I be a fish? Can I be more than one pet at the same time, at different times, with different people? Can I be a mythical creature? Can I be a hybrid animal? And hey, I want to do pet play, but I want to take on the role of a pet, but I don't really want to be an animal? Can I be a human still in my brain and do pet play? Or is that a different thing altogether? And the answer to all of those things is yes, you can do all of that and more. It is pet play. It is really not all that serious. It is for fun and enjoyment. And if you want to be a fish in a fishbowl, if you want to be a squirrel stealing tomatoes from the yard, go ahead and do it, have fun. And that last one though, that one is a little bit more complicated, and that is called being a human pet. And like I said at the beginning, it's not really that widely understood, but in my mind, it is one of the most accessible ways of getting into pet play, and it's quite a lot of fun. So what is being a human pet? So being a human pet is when you are doing a form of pet play in a BDSM context where rather than mentally taking on the role or attitude of a particular pet or of an animal in general, you are instead maintaining your human side mentally while performing the behaviors and actions of being a pet. And there are some subtle differences mentally between the two, like if you're more of a traditional animal roleplay pet player, your brain probably says something like, I'm a pet, I'm being a pet, I'm a dog, I'm a cat. Whereas somebody who is taking on a human pet role rather than an animal one, they maybe think something more like, I'm a human, but I'm acting like a pet. And there's a lot that goes into this. Like with being a human pet, you can do a lot of the same things with your behavior that a more traditional animal pet player might, right? Like you can beg at the table like a dog, you can stretch like a cat, you can even get messy in the mud in the backyard like a pig if you want to, but it all goes back to how you think about it. And there's a couple of different core threads for how people that are drawn to this tend to think. So I think for one, especially in the more traditional sense, a lot of human pet play has to do with humiliation and degradation, where it's like you are being forced to do this or you are being made to do this because you are dirty and unworthy and isn't so gross that you're having to act like a pig in a sty. And so naturally oftentimes it tends to correlate more with like barnyard animals versus like indoor house pets, though it can really be any kind of pet. But the more traditional version is kind of like dirty, humiliating outdoor animals versus like, a pretty kitty sitting on a cat tree. And so there is that mindset of like, I am human, but I am being forced to act like an animal because of how bad and gross it is. Or I am being forced or mind controlled into acting like a pet because of the sheer mental power of my dominant or whatever type of relationship you have, because you don't necessarily have to have a dominant to do this, but it is a common arrangement. Or it could even be something like, I am a human, but I'm being taught how to act like a pet because it's my new role in the household to act like a pet and take on that role. And so naturally, it tends to have a strong correlation with 24/7 power exchange relationships or total power exchange relationships, where it can be seen as a sign of the level of control in the relationship, where you're not being a pet because it's like a fun, silly thing you do is like one aspect of your dynamic. You're doing it because your dom has so much control and power over you. They can lower you so far underneath them that they can turn you into a pet simply for their own pleasure. And that mentality, oh, that feels so good for a lot of people. And again, it can also go back to kinks that are more related to like emotional sadomasochism and hypnosis and like faux brainwashing and mind control role play, if you like all that stuff. Not real mind control, of course, naturally, but the role play of that, of feeling like you're so out of control in your own body, you are being compelled to behave in a way that is totally and completely foreign to yourself. But it can also just be about having fun. It can be a natural way of interacting with pet play that is just who you are, not because you are being coerced or controlled or forced into being that, but because that is just how your pet play side looks. Like for me, when I was first in the community, there was not really conversations about this happening, at least in the places where I knew to look for information. And so a lot of pet play was like, you're a kitten, to be a kitten you do this and you think this and you wear this, and it's like a whole very regimented thing of like step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I thought I had to prescribe to that model of like, in order to be a puppy, I have to do this, this, and this. And so I was very invested in trying to look like, act like, dress like being a very particular dog. And over time, the more I was doing pet play, I realized that I couldn't get into that headspace often enough to like totally be just like a dog, and it didn't really fulfill me that way. I more wanted to be on a regular basis in a relationship, more 24/7, like pet light. I wanted to have the pet mentality and the approach and the silliness, and I wanted to do things that a pet would do, but I wanted to also still be a human and like mostly be doing human-y things, but also still like take on the role of a pet in that household I was a part of at the time. And so I sort of became a human pet, and that really made sense for me because the way that I wanted to be a pet was very much inspired by like anime, animal ears, cute girl working at a maid cafe type stuff, where it's like you're mostly human, but like, you have little exclamations and behaviors and tail wagging and get distracted by the animals and the birds in the yard, like type thing, but you're still mostly a human. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like I think that's definitely my own perspective on it, is like I like being, cutesy maid cafe helper, like service submissive but also a puppy at the same time energy. But if you want another inspiration for this, look no further than the very classic John Willie pony girl images that have generated many a lifelong fascination for decades now at this point. So it can really be on a spectrum. It can be fun and lighthearted and silly. It can be serious and emotional and all about the sadomasochism and the humiliation, or it can be somewhere in the middle if you want to do that as well. It can really be customizable. Now, if you are going to get into this, I think maybe it's worth looking at a few of the differences between being more of an animal-like pet player versus more of a human pet player, because knowing what you want to do might help you decide more what you want to try and gravitate towards to start with. Though I think it's worth experimenting with both just as a baseline. But with a human pet, I think you're more likely to, for example, use your fingers and especially your thumbs. You're more likely to be on 2 feet or be able to answer questions or just like speak at all, because a lot of pet players are going to be either very quiet or only communicate via, meows or whinnies or barking, whatever it is that your pet you're playing as would normally do. A lot of human pets, I think, are less likely to wear really extravagant roleplay costumes or have a lot of gear. It tends to be a lot more minimalistic, which can be a benefit or a detraction if you're wanting to do this, depending on what your motivation is. Some people really love the dress up, and some people go, I gotta buy all this to do pet play. I don't think so. And also I think one of the big things is that when you are deep into a pet play role as more of an animal, your ability to do certain things is very restricted typically, like being able to answer the door, open the fridge, use the toilet even. And some people love that. Other people are like, I think I want to be able to open the door to my own closet actually. And so maybe we should not have that approach. Again, depending on what level of headspace you're going to, a lot of this you can do regardless of what role you're taking on. It is more about the headspace and the mentality behind it. But I think those are some of the things I've seen a big core difference in. Is I've seen more people that do animal-y pet play have more restrictions on movement, speech, behavior, versus human pets. It tends to be a little bit more open, a little bit more human-like, obviously. Now, between both of these, there does tend to be a lot of commonalities. You may be wondering, okay, if I'm going to be a human pet, what can I do exactly? Because like human pets in real life don't really exist. So like, where do I take inspiration from? And you can really do basically anything that a more animal human pet could do in your role play, right? You can drink out of a bowl, you can eat dinner on the floor, you can sleep in a pet bed or in a cage, you can bark, you can whinny, you can get on the furniture when you're not supposed to, you can have restrictions on your vocalization, you can have rules about what you're supposed to do around the house in terms of like pets aren't allowed in the kitchen or pets aren't allowed upstairs, things like that as well. You can do trick training, you can be trained to do particular tasks that an animal would do, like pull a cart or hunt for truffles if you're a pig, or you could even be trained in certain things that are more service related, like, being a service animal, or you could also be into things that an animal would do, like fetching slippers or getting a newspaper, that kind of like more like 1950s in a TV show mentality of being a pet. Or it could be as simple as playing fetch, or maybe you want to be a human pet that is inspired by a pony and you want to be saddled up like a horse as though you are about to be ridden. Again, it does really all go back to that mindset, right? That thought that I am a human who is being taught how to take on the role of a pet. I am a human who is being made to act like a pet versus just I am a pet. Now, if you're into this for more of the like, I don't know how to say this without saying a word that YouTube doesn't like, but like mind messing. There's a different word for it we use, but I can't say it because otherwise YouTube will do this video. So we're just going to say mind messing and emotional sadomasochism, where you might be so far gone in your like brain control by someone else that you really believe you're a pet. But it's that like, I'm a human who's being tricked into believing they're a pet versus I'm a pet, bark, bark. Like, there's a difference there. It might not make sense to you, but it definitely is there. And I think that headspace of I am a human and I know that, but I am being compelled to act like an animal, I think that is much more accessible for a lot of people versus that more like, I'm a dog, bark, bark, I'm a cat, meow, meow type headspace, where it can take a lot of effort for some people to get into that. I think also it can be embarrassing, it can be intimidating, it can be honestly a really high level of role play where if you're not really used to role playing at all, it can be hard to get there. And so it can be a good accessible way of getting into role play and roles in general in BDSM without necessarily having to go, pardon the pun, whole hog into it and really having to commit first. Because, you know, if you've never barked in a room by yourself before as an adult, or at any point in your life really, it probably is going to be hard to do that the first time unless you've been like longing to do it your whole life. You just haven't been able to for whatever reason. And I think also because there is this aspect to it where it's like I am being taught to act like a pet, there's a thread in there where control and power exchange can be used in a way that it doesn't necessarily get used in more pet play animal-like relationships get to, where it's more that traditional framework. Because in those, the DS relationship tends to be much more like they're my owner, they're my handler, they take care of me, I listen to them because I'm a pet and they're a human. And that's one way of doing it, but I think this adds another layer to that power exchange where it doesn't matter if you like sleeping in a pet bed or eating out of a bowl on the ground. You're gonna learn to like it because your dom says you're a pet now. So get with the program. You're gonna be acting like this from now on, as opposed to, again, that being more of something that is like naturally done because the submissive likes doing it. If you like having power exchange where there's that sense of like I'm doing stuff not because I like it but because my dom likes it regardless of my own feelings, this can be a really easy way but a very powerful way of tapping into that desire. And of course you can always include the more extreme forms of pet play in this, like engaging in water sports or being caged or chained overnight, or having to lick the floor clean, having to beg for every single scrap of food that you get, being shorn like an animal, doing medical role play because you're going to the vet, or even things like wearing heavy bondage gear that is usually associated with pet play, like wearing crawler gear. All that sort of like very transformative, I am being made into a pet using my human form. Like that's also one of the difference between like animal pet play versus human pet play is with animal pet play, I think the way you tend to visualize yourself is like, I am a cute little dog, I'm a cute kitten, I'm a pony, like I am the animal I'm trying to be. Whereas with being a human pet, it's more that you are a human in a human body, but your shape is being forced into the role of being a pet. You don't really have any illusions about like looking like a tiny cute fluffy animal for real. Like you are a human, that is your role, and you are trying your best to be this thing, but you might not always succeed. And again, goes back to emotional sadomasochism. A lot of people enjoy that, and this is one way of doing it. It's sort of like forced pet play, that forced human role play of being a pet is something that a lot of people enjoy. I think it's really the origin of kinks like this, is that original role of like, oh, you don't do this because you like it and it's fun. You do it because you're being made to do it. And so I think that's really what I wanted to share about human pet play. If you guys want to know more about this, please let me know if you have any other questions in a comment down below. I do have lots of other videos about pet play as well, both from more recently as well as from a long time ago. If you want to check those out, those are really good resources if you want more ideas for scenes and role play, different perspectives on like gear and equipment, things like that. Tons of options also for power exchange, rules, dynamics, all of that good stuff. And again, I would love to know your thoughts in a comment down below. If you did enjoy this and you have not already, please do subscribe because I make videos twice a week about all sorts of different kink and BDSM related subjects. And finally, if you want to support what I do, the best way you can do that is with Patreon. A link to that will be down below. If you do already support over there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you all next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.